Hey there, Saber friends. It's SpaceWIndu here from the FX Saber Forums. And I thought it was time to talk some sabers. So I thought we'd have kind of a lightsaber State of the Union address and talk about everything that's going on, or at least a little bit of what's going on. And I can test my microphone. I got a new microphone, and I want to make sure that's working. And it was working in the test. In the test stream, so I hope that it's working on here. But there's just so much going on with lightsabers these days. A lot of stuff just happened, like trailer just dropped for episode 9, and there's a new lightsaber in the trailer. It's Rey's new lightsaber, or maybe it's a lightsaber out of a vision from the movie, inside the movie, Dark Side Rey, where there's 2 blades, and the blades are together for a moment, and then they kind of, let's see here, show you guys I'm sure everyone's seen it already that is into sabers, but so it looks like in the first frame of that, we see this new lightsaber. Rey ignites just one side of the blade, and then there's the second side of the blade, and then we see that the blade actually, or the second hilt actually folds down from the first one and creates kind of a lightsaber staff, So just like kind of from the Force Awakens, when we all thought that Rey should have a staff because she uses the stick. She comes to the table with the staff. It looked at the end of it like it's a lightsaber. Kind of people were speculating, is that going to be like a Sith lightsaber, or just some kind of hidden lightsaber, like maybe it was from an old Jedi, or something that she's been carrying, or something that like her parents or whoever dropped her off on that planet, Jakku, maybe they left that with her because it was part of her heritage as a Jedi, or as a Force intuitive youngling. So a lot of people speculated when the Force Awakens came out that, that there was something inside of her staff. They kind of focus on the staff a little bit. She beat people up with it. She saved Finn with it, and it just looked like she knew what she was doing with it. So maybe did she have some kind of training, with a stick, or with some kind of weaponry, or did she literally just learn all that stuff? Like while she was on the go, she learned how to beat people up with a stick while she was on the go, or did she get some kind of training? So people kind of wondered when the Force Awakens came out and they saw that staff, is there a hidden hilt in there somewhere? Is she going to pull out a hilt? Is she going to know how to use it? Is it going to be a surprise to her too that there was a hilt in there? But instead of going that direction, at least for this scene of the trailer that we see, it could be a vision, it could be whatever, but it looks like she's got this double lightsaber that, this is what I hope that it's like. I hope that it is a contraption that is holding together 2 hilts rather than all in one switchblade lightsaber, because it just seems a little cumbersome, a little unwieldy. I mean, if you guys ever like used your lightsabers at a Comic-Con, or ever trooped with your lightsaber, ever just like did like an everyday carry, you guys know that, even just one lightsaber is like pretty cumbersome. To carry this contraption, I mean, you know, the kind of the biggest point that I could bring up about this is just, you know, everyone saw the Geonosis battle where like 200 Jedi, you know, 200 Jedi um, were charging at the battle droids, and we got to see what that looked like. What does 200 Jedi on the attack look like, especially in sort of the heyday? I mean, they were on the decline at that point. Admittedly, the Jedi were on the decline at that point, but that's the only thing we've ever seen on screen with like that many Jedi running. And let me just show you what we see there. What we see there is 200 Jedi running towards the battle droids, and guess what? They all have a single bladed, you know, just a single hilt lightsaber. Now, not that that's a be all and end all of like what a lightsaber can be, but it just seems like, don't you guys think that the lightsaber is the coolest weapon ever thought, ever conceived of, you know, ever conceived of in real life, for a film, just for anything? It's the coolest thing. It's a sword made of light, made of plasma, can cut through anything. Basically, the only thing that can stop it, right, is another lightsaber blade. If you're talking about the Legends canon, it's cortosis. If you're talking about like what the Mandalorians use, it's Beskar, but even that can just deflect a lightsaber blade. Maybe you get a lightsaber blade caught in the Beskar. If you're hitting hard enough, the Beskar is going to stop you from being killed. But it's basically like nothing can stop a lightsaber. It's the coolest thing in the world. Like, why do you need to kind of cheese that up to make it more? Obviously, George Lucas did not think that even in the realm of 200 Jedi running towards the bad guys who they want to defeat, none of them even had. Okay, well, let me try to think of the devil's advocate. Is that these Jedi were not sort of like bred for war, so maybe their swords are like almost ceremonial, and the fact that everyone just has a single bladed lightsaber is just because, like, well, I mean, the war, there was like problems on every planet. I'm assuming if Jedi were sent around to different planets, they had to deal with problems. They had to deal with mercenaries and different problems. So they were skilled at war, but yet none of them saw the need to like make an extravagant lightsaber. In the prequel trilogy, we saw many Jedi with many different lightsabers, and the only variations we saw was like the blockbuster debut of Darth Maul's lightsaber, which is the double blade. And you know, that was like the epic reveal for the Phantom Menace. So when Darth Maul came out with that, everybody was kind of floored, because of course you can have one lightsaber and you can have two lightsabers, but what happens when they're staff? So people were blown away by that. And then the fact of, you know, what happens at the end of that movie, where we actually see a Sith and a Jedi fight in the heyday of their like war skills. You know, in the newer, or in the oldest trilogy, the original trilogy, we just see kind of a half man, half machine versus an old man, or we're watching a younger Force adept against a much stronger Sith opponent. So finally, in the Phantom Menace, we get to see, you know, Jedi in their heyday versus the Sith revealing themselves as a force to be reckoned with. And not only that, but we see a brand new lightsaber. So then we get the sequel trilogy, and it seems like right off the bat, they need to sort of outdo what was done before, because somehow just a lightsaber is not cool enough, you know, anymore. So now it's got Quylons on it, and it's got fire coming out the side, and it's unstable, which is cool. And the trailer for The Force Awakens, what made that look so cool. And the fight in the snow is awesome because, you know, fight in the snow is the best, with lightsabers or cutting down trees and all that. It's just, I'm not sure why we're taking it to a new level of cool, or like we're trying to get to the next level when a single lightsaber is the sweetest thing I can imagine. So if Rey came to the table with a lightsaber that she built on her own, I think that would be uh, better than coming to the table with not only something she may have built on her own, but a new kind of lightsaber as well. It just almost diminishes the fact that she can make you know, her own lightsaber. Like the last one's damaged or whatever. Um, that Graflex might be damaged for good, or maybe at this point in the movie, this is a clone of Rey. Like JC Wenzel in the comments here says she's a clone. Yeah, I mean, I saw a video, you know, where someone or an article online, maybe it was on FX Sabers, where someone was saying that, you know, when Rey looks at herself in the mirror, and each one of her, actually, I think Gabe from Saber Talk texted me this. So when Rey's looking in the mirror and she sees all her different reflections that are kind of not snapping at the same time as herself and stuff like that, that's actually because it's giving her that clue that there's some clones of her. Now, if the clone thing's true, like I truly hope that they take it to where maybe it could be where there's not just one clone, but there's more than one. I think that'd be crazy. Megatooth Sith says, and then Kylo strikes her and the Emperor down. I mean, like, do you guys think that the Emperor is in this? I don't know if you guys saw that kind of, I don't know, that kind of controversy around the poster. I do graphics. I do graphic design as like a day job. That's like my job, and that's what I went to college for, trained in that. And you know, one of my teachers told me once, he was like real big influence in me back in college, and he had his own design business, and he was just a really great guy. Dan Troll, he actually passed away a few years back, but he was just such a big influence on me. He's so smart. He said, when you are going to get into design and you're going to look at things a different way, you know, you're going to see a billboard, and the billboard is going to make me mad because it's going to be spelled wrong, you know, and maybe not spelled wrong, but, you know, grammar might be wrong, apostrophe might be wrong, or just maybe it's the wrong picture. You know, something is going to make you mad, like when you become a graphic designer. You know, something is going to make you mad because you're going to see something that is just like off. And anyway, so this new poster, you know, some people pointed out online that it's actually, you know, a Hot Toys Palpatine, Hot Toys Emperor. Like in the background, they point out to, you know, just different creases in his forehead. It wasn't actually Ian McDermott who posed for this poster shot. I mean, isn't Star Wars important enough for a photo shoot with Ian McDermott for the poster of Episode 9, which is closing out the entire Star Wars 9 movie? I don't even know what to call that. A trilogy of trilogies, you know. This is going to close it out, and to make the poster the first poster that everyone's going to see. It's not the only poster, you know. It's going to be other posters. It's probably going to be like a painterly poster later, I hope. But we've kind of gotten disappointed with those type of posters, even with this sequel trilogy, because back in the past, I don't know if you guys know who Drew Struzan is, but he's the artist who drew like Indiana Jones posters and Star Wars posters back for the re-release in like '97, and I think even before that, all the great like realistic painterly images from the re-release in '97, I think, were the Drew Struzan artworks for those for those 3 movies. They had a different artwork, and maybe even for the release when the DVDs came out in 2003 or 2005 for the entire series. But what we've been seeing is like a little bit downgrade in the posters quality, in the poster quality for quite some time. And now just to see that we see a poster that doesn't have the actor, that has a Hot Toys image in the background, very large. We have a graphic that's very un-Star Wars because it looks more like anime, which is cool. Believe me, like I think anime is cool. I think comic books are great. I draw comic books too. I love comic books. I love that it looks like Aeon Flux or something like that. It looks like what I would want to draw to make something cool as a cartoon. But that the bottom image of Rey and Kylo fighting is kind of cartoony, and even though I think it's cool, it doesn't kind of go along with like what they've been setting up so far. You know, like are they actually going for a toy look, like a toyish look? Then you hit the nail on the head. Like it's done. Like you got the look you wanted. You put the toy in the background, and the characters look like anime on the bottom. You know, so it just doesn't show anything, like, and it doesn't confirm to me that Palpatine is part of this. You know, like I've been following, like, just, I mean, obviously just like you guys, like ever since the beginning, even back in like 2001, 2002, 2003, 1999, you know, when internet was younger, and George Lucas would put out these videos, and I remember that they would take like, I would download the video for 4 hours, you know, before I could watch like the 9-minute video of just a little glimpse of, like, let's say them putting makeup on Ewan McGregor, or getting the Qui-Gon hair like right or something for some scene, or just to get a glimpse of like what they were going to do for this new series of movies. So it's really nothing new to kind of get all this stuff as early as we're getting it. I mean, you know, we get trailers and posters and like little tidbits. To be quite honest, it seemed to be like we got a lot more back in like 99, 2000, 2002, when we're waiting for these prequel movies. I felt like we got like a little bit more. There was confirmation of certain things. We knew it was going to happen. Not necessarily the ending of the movie, I don't mean that, but I mean we knew the ending because it's just a story that was that was told in the old trilogy. So we kind of knew, like, you know, Darth Vader's going to get burned up, et cetera, et cetera. It's just with this newer one, you know, the poster seems a bit disappointing as a confirmation for Palpatine. So I don't know if are we just gonna hear his voice, you know, back in this celebration. Ian McDiarmid came out and he made a comment or two, or he was on stage, and it definitely seemed like confirmation that he was in this movie. But I just feel like they're kind of throwing us off with some of this stuff that they're putting out. Like, it's like the other trailer where when that laugh happened at the end, or that like emperor laugh or emperor quote at the end. You know, when I first heard it, I thought that was Luke. I thought that was like Mark Hamill as Joker or something like that. Like I didn't know it, and someone told me it's Palpatine. It's the Emperor. I went online immediately or something. I found out it's the Emperor. I was like, it's the Emperor. The Emperor, like, you know, they didn't set that up in. There wasn't a clue in episode 7, and there wasn't a clue in episode 8, as far as I could tell. They did speak of the Emperor a little bit in episode 8. Luke spoke of the Emperor a little bit and said that, you know, Yoda, Mace Windu, and them, they had some problems. They got caught up. You know, they got caught up in different ideals that didn't stop the Sith. I guess it didn't stop them permanently. I mean, I really wish that they just brought the Sith back just like from episode 7, just to like Kylo to be like, no, I want to be Sith, or Snoke to be like, we are the Sith, like just make it clear. To bring it in now to say the Sith are coming, they're on the rise. Well, the title is The Rise of Skywalker. So how are we expecting a threat from Palpatine? What's the threat? I guess Rey, double bladed red saber. Red sabers is the threat. That's the threat, and she's like super powerful. Qui-Gon is Mace. Listen to Shamim's power up. Yeah, the Megatooth says the trailers are all redirection, distraction, smoke screens designed to spur interest, anger, anything controversial, get people to talk about. I mean, yeah, I mean, like it got me to log on and tell you guys that, yeah, it's getting people to talk about it because, I guess being, the clone route, that's one way it could go. Rey herself being dark is another way it could go. Maybe in that case, does Kylo Ren step in and say, like, you're going too far, like you're going farther. But at one point in the new trailer, we see like an explosive red laser beam, like from Starkiller Base. So is it one of their like mega ships? Like they got like those like super duper star destroyers, whatever Snoke's ship was like, that huge one. That's probably not the only one. One of them probably has like some gigantic laser attached to it, or do they have another planet killer laser system embedded into another like moving planet, or is it like a Death Star? But anyway, we saw the laser beam strike something, and those laser beams destroy what they strike something and they destroy it. They destroy it completely, So, like, if like what are those laser beams hitting? What are those laser beams hitting? Because another planet's going to get destroyed. We had Alderaan get destroyed. And that was just absolutely devastating. Princess Leia talked about it. Even one of the generals just said, his condolences about Alderaan, and Leia's like, yo, there's no time to talk about that. Like the Death Star is on its way. So they at least acknowledged it. But in The Force Awakens, it just seemed like they shot 5 planets at once with the laser beam. The planets blew up, apparently with all the Republic people and all the Republic ships surrounding those planets. That was like their army. It was like the Japanese hitting Pearl Harbor here in America in 1941, trying to get our Navy, trying to destroy our ships, our capital ships and stuff like that. And it's like the First Order in Episode 7 shot a laser beam that split into 5 bits, destroyed 5 planets, not just Alderaan, but 5 more. So just in the Skywalker saga, like up to that point, it's 6 planets destroyed. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 6 planets destroyed. Now we see laser beams hitting another planet. Another planet's going to be destroyed. My question is, are we going to see anyone acknowledge the fact that like billions of people are dying? Because in The Force Awakens, we just see those people scream. That was it. We never saw anyone like condolences or say, oh my God, I have friends on that planet. Like, oh, like no one had a comment in Episode 8. Like, no one had a comment to say like my whole family's gone. And then someone will be like, what's wrong? Like, not only are they destroying all these ships in Episode 8, but a couple days ago, my whole family got, one of those planets that hit me hard because that was my family. And then they would say, oh, I actually know people on that planet too, but it's brushed over. I don't know. It's in the books, in the expanded universe. Back in the day, they would like go into detail about like what Alderaan meant, and like the art from Alderaan, like what that meant, the wine from Alderaan. Someone would have like Thrawn would have like a bottle of wine from Alderaan, or he'd have like 2 or 3 artworks from Alderaan, and and like it was worth a lot, and like, you know, he would trade it for stuff. Like he tried to get that stuff. It just seems like everything's kind of glossed over. Now, I don't know if any of the new content like talks about those destroyed planets, but it just seems like you know, we're not getting like the human element in this new series. Like if you're going to destroy all those planets, I think we need to get some repercussions for that, you know. And if they're going to destroy this planet, whatever planet they're destroying in the new movie, unless it's a flashback to the previous movie or the episode 7, if we're gonna, you know, I just really hope that there's some weight to that, some meaning to us as audience, you know, because that's like when you kill 1 billion people or 1 trillion people, it should have some weight, you know, it should have some meaningful like repercussions. So in this episode 9, we might see some repercussions for Kylo, you know, for all the death and destruction that he caused. But just regarding that lightsaber that Rey has in the trailer, another thing that people are kind of talking about today and pointing it out. You know, someone came out with a video, said like, look at what you missed. Like everyone missed this. You know, everyone missed the fact that it's got a cracked crystal. It looks like Kylo. You know, everyone didn't miss that. It's like I just noticed that. Everyone noticed that it's an unstable. Everyone that gives a hoot about lightsabers knows that it was an unstable double blade. So I don't know if these Sith or these bad guys are like, are they throwing? I mean, we know that Kylo Ren throws a temper tantrum, smashes things. He smashes the wall. He punches. Doesn't he? He grabs people and he chokes them. So are they like purposefully cracking their crystals for these lightsabers? Like, are we gonna? I mean, I guess we could do it too. We could, but some of these crystals, like, don't you guys know that? Now I don't know the name of the person that makes these. They're incredible, and I think one of them's in my lightsaber. So I really apologize for not knowing. But I think maybe it's on the Rebel Armory forum. There's a maker who has the marble like jewels. They're the crystals that are like a marble, and we could smash those, you know. But why? Like it's a beautiful thing. Like when you find a crystal, we don't want to smash it. But maybe these people like Evil Rey and Kylo, maybe they're smashing their own crystal, because that's just another thing we haven't seen unstable crystals until episode 7, really. And like I pointed out before, we saw hundreds of lightsabers in the Geonosian arena. We didn't see any unstable lightsabers. So did Rey steal Kylo's crystal? Maybe he finally got his hands on like Anakin's blue lightsaber, the one that he wanted from the beginning. And then he could just kick his dirty old unstable lightsaber to the dirt. And then she picks it up and uses that crystal. You know, it's either that, she takes it from him, or they're smashing their own crystals. Like, why else? Or maybe it's a crystal that they broke in half to kind of, like, you know, when something like a crystal, maybe the smaller the piece, it's okay. So maybe they're just bashing Kylo's crystal in pieces, in shards, you know, like the Plector Labs crystal shard. Maybe they just have crystal shard in each of, maybe that makes them like brother and sister lightsabers. Maybe they're going to come out with maybe they're going to come out with like the fact that this is really Jason and Jaina Solo, names changed to protect the innocent, you know, and it's going to be like the legend. It's going to be like the legend stories. Rey is Zeocles says Rey is a hybrid clone of Anakin and Palpatine. and Palpatine. Yeah, I mean, like the way Rey looks, I don't know. Like, you know, we've not seen a young Palpatine. Like, they didn't de-age him for any of the movies. We never saw flashback. That would be pretty crazy if we saw a flashback. But we never saw a flashback. We don't know how he looked as a younger man unless you look up Ian McDermott. Like at his acting, his headshots from 30, 40 years ago. Then maybe you could see how he looked, and then maybe try to imagine like what would maybe his sister look like. But maybe the looks don't matter. But Anakin, being closer in age to like what Rey looks like, I could see it. You know, they're both white. They both have brown hair. If they're like a clone, like where that comes to, like the look comes to, but it's just the gender's different. Like I think that could be it. Like that could be, you know what though? But like clone just seems so scientific. Like I think since they're force sensitive, if Palpatine's going to make a clone, I think like we're saying the word clone, but what we really mean is like a force manifestation / clone. So it's like clone material, clone body material, whatever, DNA. Plus they're imbuing it with like force. They got to be doing something with the force, because if in the new canon, Palpatine and his master, let's say him and Darth Plagueis, maybe like what I kind of think happened is Darth Tenebrous and Darth Plagueis. Darth Tenebrous is Darth Plagueis' master. Darth Tenebrous and Darth Plagueis did their force mumbo jumbo magic. I think they created Anakin. This is what that book Plagueis. I'm trying to think of the name of the author right now, but anyway, look up Plagueis. It's a really good book. It came out right as like Disney was buying Star Wars, so it just missed the cutoff of canon, but it's so very, very close to what the canon should be if it isn't, that I just wouldn't doubt if, like, you know, people reading that book in Lucasfilm or people reading that book in working for Star Wars, they know that's the true that's where the truth is. And what that book basically says is Darth Tenebrous and Darth Plagueis, they do their mumbo jumbo. Darth Tenebrous is into this. He's into, like, he tortures people. He gets bodies, he gets people, and he prefers you to be force sensitive. He wants you to come in. He ties you up in his basement and he pokes at you and he keeps you alive. And if you're force sensitive, he tortures you worse. He's doing experiments. He's trying to figure out like what's going on here with it, because we all know that when you clone somebody, the force essence, it doesn't work right. It doesn't come through right. Like they try to clone Luke in the old books. You know, they try to clone Luke from the hand that was chopped off. I'm kind of veering around here, but just follow where I'm going with this, with the clone situation. So they chopped off Luke's hand. Darth Vader chopped off Luke's hand, tumbled down in Bespin. They went to go get the hand. They got the hand. They cloned it. Palpatine wanted to replay, or he wanted to practice. You know, he wanted to practice like what happens when they bring Luke to the throne room. What happens when they bring Luke to the throne? I'm not going to try this just once. He's like, I'm the best in the galaxy. I'm the Sith Lord. I don't do things until it's right. So what he did was he cloned Luke. Like he cloned him like 30 times. He cloned him 50 times. He cloned him 100 times. He had him walk in all these different times. He had him walk in with Vader there. He had him walk in with Vader not there, I think. It's one of these books that I read, you know, back in the 1990s. I don't know what it might have been those Timothy Zahn books. Those were excellent. So I think that's where it was, because in that, towards the end of it, we see the clone called Luke, where that's two U's in Luke. So anyway, what Palpatine finds out with the cloning is that the Force doesn't truly translate towards the clone. You know, the Force doesn't truly imbue into the clone. properly. Like the clones that are powerful in the Force, they're like half stupid. They don't do what Luke would really do. They don't have Luke's experiences. They kind of every time Palpatine. But here's the bright side of it. Palpatine wins every time with these Lukes. You know, these Lukes are like half stupid, and they're not great with the Force. They don't have the teaching of Ben Kenobi. They don't have the love of Aunt Beru. They don't have the supervision of Uncle Owen. They don't have the blue milk. They were grown in a cage or whatever. So they don't have the lightsaber, even just the goofy lightsaber skills that Luke had just from practicing on the Millennium Falcon with that little ball android. These Lukes don't even have that. So basically, Palpatine wins every time. And when he has to face the real Luke, he kind of realizes that, you know, he kind of realizes that, or he doesn't really realize. He doesn't realize until it's too late, because the real Luke turns his dad against Palpatine, right? So that's why the clone doesn't work. That's why the clone doesn't work when you're in Star Wars. Like when you're trying to clone a Force user, it doesn't work. So if that's a Rey clone, I mean, that could be dangerous. That could be dangerous, you guys. You know, because Rey is like super powered. She's super powered. She can lift up these crazy stones. She can do things quicker than even Luke could. She can fight with a lightsaber with prowess faster than Luke could, probably more powerfully. Maybe something about her genetics is even better than a Skywalker. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think a Skywalker is a pinnacle of Force DNA, but maybe Rey's line of whatever her name is even better. So when you clone her, if that's a clone standing there, she's going to be a half-wit, first of all. She's not going to have the experiences of Rey. She's not going to have any love that Rey received from, well, I don't know how much love Rey received, though. She was like, she didn't really get that much love, so I don't know where she's drawing her kind of like heart from, you know. But like the clone could be more sporadic. Like her power could be there, but she could be like kind of off kilter. Yeah, Megatooth Sith read the Timothy Zahn books too because he says Zahn ruled. Yeah, I mean, you know, Timothy Zahn is still around. That's why I just don't get why they would get these other authors. Like of course you need a bunch of authors, but why not have the main author? Like if you're going to revise the canon, you're going to kickstart and jumpstart and restart the canon with the new movie, Episode 7. Why don't you get the guy who brought Star Wars back to life from nothing? You know, this guy took Star Wars, which there wasn't anything since 1983. Nobody thought they were going to get anything else. There was like, you know, the real Star Wars fans knew that this was a part of a series that George Lucas had written more than just 3 movies of, or had the ideas for more than just 3 movies. But for the most part, people didn't think of Star Wars after 1983, 1985, when if the VHS tapes came out and people bought those tapes, they rewatched them at home. That was it. There was no thinking there was going to be an episode 1 or an episode 2 or an episode. There was nothing like that. So when Timothy Zahn came out with his book, Heir to the Empire, that was 1990, I think. So this was 7 years later. This was 7 years later, and everyone had forgotten about Star Wars. And this kind of brought it back to life. It said, look, this is 5 years after Return of the Jedi. How do you like that? You know, how do you like that? This is 5 years after Return of the Jedi. We're going to show you the interesting stuff. You know, we're going to write in the interesting stuff. Okay, so you didn't see the fact that Han Solo and Leia got married, but they did in that intervening 5 years. You didn't see some things about Luke, but you picked up right where they wanted you to pick up in Heir to the Empire. And what you got was just exactly where we needed to be. You know, we got exactly where we needed to be. We had Leia, who was ready to learn about the Force. She was pregnant, and she had to learn about the Force because she was putting it off for a while, and she was doing some diplomatic stuff. And where the lightsaber comes into that is pretty cool, because from what I remember, if I remember correctly, Luke gives Leia Anakin's saber, if I remember correctly. It might have been one that he made for her that was blue. I know that it was blue. I think it was blue. So he's carrying his green one. I think he gives her. Does he give her Kenobi's saber? Does he give her some blue saber? I think it was like his. And she just does the coolest thing with it in the story. You know, they got bad guys chasing her, and she's up in Kashyyyk. She's in the Wookiee homeworld, and she's with a couple. She's got a couple bodyguards with her. They're Nagori bodyguards. They're like stealth assassins. I think by that time she's got them with her, if I'm remembering the story correctly. I hope I got the right story. And she's got these two Nagori bodyguards who are basically like ninjas. They could take people out. And either that or she's still getting attacked by them, but eventually she turns them to her side. And she's got some people chasing her. And since they're in the Wookiee homeworld, they're up in the trees, you know. They're up in the trees, and they got ropes, and they got vines, and they got different hoisting levels, that different bridges that go across, like you saw in the Ewok village. And then I think we even see Kashyyyk in episode 3. So you saw a lot of that stuff where, you know, they're high up in the trees, and there's ways to get up there, almost like an elevator, but it's like with ropes. So what she does is they're using one of these transport bridges or whatever. It's like a cart connected with ropes that goes across the tree line. And we're talking about 300, 500 feet up in the sky, because these trees on Kashyyyk are just mega. So it's supposed to be like what the Ewoks were going to be like, what their homeworld was going to be like, you know, in episode 6, but they weren't able to do that in Return of the Jedi. So George Lucas saved that idea for these monstrous, even taller trees than what we saw in the Ewok area. And he made that that was Kashyyyk. That was where Chewie was from. And so Leia, she gets her group across. You know, she's pregnant. She doesn't really know how to use the Force that much, but she knows that she's got the Force. She knows that she can do something to protect herself. So she takes the cart across the tree line. And when the bad guys are coming across, she ties a rope to her lightsaber. You know, it's almost disposable to her. Like, that's how, like, a lightsaber is a cool weapon from the it's from the 1970s, but basically it's got the heart of the 1980s. The lightsaber has the heart of the 1980s. So 1980s badassery, Princess Leia, she ties it to a rope and throws it at the bad guy's cart, which is coming across on other ropes. That lightsaber is ignited, and it cuts the ropes of the bad guys, and they fall. She actually gets the lightsaber back, you know. But it's just that's the coolness of the lightsaber. You don't know that you're gonna get it back. You know, like at one point in the trailer, especially when you're a novice, you know. At one point in the new trailer, Rey is throwing her lightsaber around, whipping it around like a boomerang, like Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. But if you guys remember, Darth Vader, with all of his Force abilities, with his midichlorian count of what did they say, over 20,000, you know, over 20,000. Okay, you got a couple limbs cut off. When he throws the lightsaber, it doesn't come back. It doesn't come back. It falls. Remember, he actually retrieves it. He actually retrieves it with the Force a couple moments later, but it doesn't like come back in a boomerang. So basically, what we're shown in this trailer is Rey has a midichlorian count of over 20,000. You know, because she's actually returning the lightsaber, and she doesn't even have any Sith training, as far as we know. But you know, there's some people talking about Rey's lightsaber on FX Sabers. Like I want to go to that and just like I started reading it and I was like let me just like talk about it because this is pretty interesting. So I'm on FX Sabers. There's a topic called D23, the Rise of Skywalker trailer, Rey's new lightsaber, or is it? Or is it? Because we don't know. We don't know if it's really Rey's new lightsaber. So, it's kind of funny because only one Kenomi. He's on FX Sabers. You guys can, if you're not on FX Sabers and you want to join, it's totally free. It's like the Rebel Armory. You can join for free. You can learn from all the experts who make sabers, who are like, actually behind a lot of the sabers that you buy. They're on these forums. If you buy a Vader's Vault saber, you could find Alan and Deanna on FX Sabers. If you buy a Solo's Hold lightsaber, you could find Aaron at the Rebel Armory. So and these people are answering your questions. If you have the board that if you have a Plector Labs board and you ask a question on FX Sabers, I guess who's going to answer? It's going to be like either an expert or it's going to be Irv from Plector Labs. So if you ask a question on the Custom Saber Shop forum, you might get the machinist. You might get Eric answering your question. You might get Ace Rock answering. I don't know who's going to answer your question, but you might get Tim from TCSS answer your question if you go on the Custom Saber Shop forum. So you guys should be a member of all the forums if you're not already. But so I'm sure like other forums are discussing this. This is on FX Sabers. This is only one Kenobi. He's saying, on the one hand, we'd hope that Rey got a new lightsaber. And we did hope that Rey built a new lightsaber. So this is what it is. This is what we get for their new lightsaber. Maybe. Ideally, a new lightsaber type, he says, somewhere in the final sequel movie. So maybe this should make me feel happy on that account. He's kind of in the middle. It's, he's started this post, so he's in the middle. He's asking the question, is this Rey's new lightsaber? Do I like this? He says, but on the other hand, I don't really want the sequels to end with Rey becoming new Vader or joining Kylo Palpatine in the dark side either, subverting the core redemption theme basic to Star Wars. Because that's actually a good point. Like I was listening to this podcast yesterday. I was talking about Star Wars and it's just like they were talking about how we keep being told that Star Wars is for kids, right? So if we complain about Star Wars or we complain about something, then like I guess Disney might sometimes say like, well, don't forget, like this is for kids. But that's kind of the problem that I had with Episode 8 is because like the movie was so just like it was depressing. Like if you wanted that to be for children and you wanted to sell those toys, what a terrible way to do that. What a terrible way to do that. I feel like they lost a lot of money by getting rid of these characters like Han and Luke, because if what seems to be true is true, that they're obviously making these movies to make money. What is more money making than Luke Skywalker? I just don't know. I just don't think there is anything. It just doesn't seem like their characters were established to the point where we could lose Luke at this point. We needed Luke. We needed Luke for longer. Maybe we're going to get the ghost of Luke to kind of help here because we needed Luke for longer. I saw, was it in this thread? I think I read one or two of these posts, but the thread's like a page long, so I just want to go through it. But either on here or somewhere else, I forgot where I saw this, but someone else was saying just what I thought, which was in episode 7 at the end when, or it wasn't even at the end. It was like when they were in the forest and Han was, I think Han showed up right when they took Rey. You know, it was when Kylo Ren takes Rey prisoner. And right before that was going to happen, I literally thought in the movie that this is where Luke steps in. This is where it becomes 1985, 1986, where if you were writing this movie in 1986, Luke would step out right here and the music would swell and it would be like a showdown. You know, in the movie The Force Awakens, they had martial artists on hand. I literally thought that these guys from the raid, the martial artists from the raid and the raid 2, which they had hired to be those goofballs that Han sicked the Raktars on those goofballs. Or was it Rey? Rey kind of did it, right? She unlocked the door. But those goofballs were martial artists. They could do flips, they could do kicks, they could do high kicks. I thought, you know, these were going to be Kylo's cronies. These were going to be the Knights of Ren. We saw the teaser picture of them before episode 7 came out. I got the visual art book that was accompanied episode 7. Saw the renderings of the Knights of Ren. They were cool. One of them looked like they had a saber. The other one was Kylo Ren. There was like 5 more. They were maybe the students. Were they the students of Luke Skywalker? Were they the students that Kylo Ren took with him? Were they going to jump out and be like ninjas, which would have been the coolest thing? Could they be like ninjas, trained in the Force, leaping tall like Ataru style, lightsaber combat? Maybe one of them's got a yellow lightsaber. Maybe one of them. Maybe because they used to be in the school. Maybe a couple of them didn't build their lightsaber yet. Maybe they were wielding swords just as well as a lightsaber, and it was astonishing. Or those weapons from episode 8, those Crimson Guard weapons. What if they had those weapons? What if they had a Crimson Guard glow weapons that resisted lightsabers, that were like cortoses, and they jumped out, and right when Rey was about to have an anxiety attack, Luke steps out. You know, there'd be an epic battle. That would be like a blur, like what they used to describe it in the books when Luke would kind of come to the party. When Luke would have to help his like little nieces and nephews, you know, he had if you fast forward a little bit from the book I was talking about before, Heir to the Empire, you fast forward like 10, 15 years in the storyline, maybe 20 years in the storyline, when you have maybe about 15 years, because you have their son Anakin is their youngest son, and he's 15, he's 14, he's 15, he's 16. They're fighting this war. And the twins, Jason and Jaina, I think they're 17. You know, they're 17. They're like 16, 7. They're all quite young. They're teenagers, but they're just kick-ass. They're trained by Luke Skywalker. But when they can't take it anymore, and there's 500 bad guys a pile on top of them, they say that Luke comes in. And when Luke comes in, it's like a green blur, a sphere of lightsaber light. His green saber is like a sphere, and it's like a video game as he rolls through these people. So we didn't get anything like that. We didn't even see Luke cross sabers with anyone as a Jedi Master. We didn't see it. We never saw it. We'll never see it. We'll never see it that way. Unless, you know, I don't know. Is there going to be like an inserted trilogy? We're going to insert it in between. I don't know. You know, do you guys even want to? Do you guys even like? This is a time period where the important stuff happened, though. That's where the important stuff happened. You know, we came into episode 7 where it's like the fun stuff happened already. That's why I'm confused of like why they started there. Why did they start the story when you're supposed to start a story at the interesting part? You're supposed to start a story when that school is burning down. That would have been great. Like you open the movie, maybe you open episode 7. I mean, I think that's even too late. The school burning down is too late. Like I want to see. Maybe you got to go back even further. Maybe you got to go back even further. You have to have a couple interesting things. You have to have some interesting things happen. And the interesting stuff to me is Kylo Ren, is Ben Solo breaking down. He's breaking down. He's breaking down. So in episode 8, we see the scene where, from a couple different viewpoints, excellent lightsaber scene. This is an excellent lightsaber scene. If I could say some good things about episode 8, here we go with the lightsabers. Finally, we're seeing. Actually, I guess I lied a second ago. We did see Luke cross sabers with somebody. We did see that. It was him and Kylo crossing sabers over Kylo's bed. But I guess the reason why I didn't think of that a couple seconds ago is because it's like one of those murder mysteries where you're told the story 3 different ways, and you're supposed to imagine which one is the truth, you know? I think we see at first, it's like Luke's perspective. It's like, you know, okay, he's like almost half lying. Then he tells it again. Or, you know, I saw the movie 3 times. I saw episode 8 3 times in 30 hours. And I brought some friends. And my friends almost had to tell me after the third time, the friends I brought to the third time. You know, my friend Kevin had to tell me, you know, I was like, what do you think? Like, I'm just a little confused. You know, is this too soon to kill Luke? Did that go down right in this movie? I'm just so confused. I want to like it. I want to really like this. I thought this was going to be something where they were letting Rian Johnson get the reins and not step in with the suits. I thought that was fantastic. You know, if I had heard that they stepped in with the suits in the last moments, I would have been worried. I would have been pissed off. But at this point, I wish that the suits did step in to say, listen, like, we didn't do enough with this character yet. And I know that, like, there's something like a Game of Thrones realism. And I understand that. I understand a Game of Thrones realism. I understand that maybe this character needs to bite the dust before his time, because that would be so realistic. It would be like Game of Thrones. It'd be like Ned Stark. I get that. But I don't think that was time, you know. So going back to them crossing sabers, Kylo Ren versus Luke Skywalker over his bed. We get to see Ben Solo's lightsaber. That is a cool lightsaber. I think a few people are making that lightsaber. I think there is Phoenix Props, maybe if I'm right, has a Ben Solo lightsaber. It's cool. It looks like the hilt without the Quylons that Ben's, but it's even cooler in my opinion, because instead of being like heat colored and heat warped, it's you know, it's like this smoked gunmetal color. At least the way I saw it in those, like, I think those Phoenix Props renders, or at least the way I saw it in those couple seconds of footage, it seemed like it was like a carbon, like a deeper color. Like when we build our hilts in aluminum, you know, we have to we have to bake them, or we have to anodize them to put a color. It seemed like this was like anodized in like what, like, you know what it was like? It was like, that's not smoked chrome, not smoked chrome. It's like the one from like Rob Pet Cow Mad Cow uses in on his Koran horn. It was like that black. It was like that deep color on the neck, I think is what it looked like to me. But the entire saber was like that. So that was really cool lightsaber. And the fact that we could see that he had a blue lightsaber. He crossed sabers with his uncle with the green lightsaber. His uncle's still carrying that. But that was just one of the things in the books that I thought they were going to bring forward to the movie. It's like that cool 1980s attitude of we don't care, we're not worried. Like when I see this new trailer with Rey and this double-bladed lightsaber, it looks like, to me, they're saying we're worried. We got to pull out all the stops. But to say that you're not worried would have been this. You have episode 8. You have Luke in that scene with Kylo, or using his lightsaber, however you want to imagine it, whether it be at the final scene or in the flashbacks. And you have it be different. And then as an audience member, we wonder, what's the story there? You know, but the thing is, a Jedi is always kind of losing, not always, but, you know, it happens. You lose your lightsaber, and maybe even this Jedi Master, it could happen. Because that would kind of tell us that, first of all, it would tell us if he had a different lightsaber, rather than the episode 6 lightsaber that he's using in episode 6. So that's that you know, there's 2 of them. There's the V2 and there's the hero. So in episode 8, I think we're seeing the hero. So forget that. What if we see him with a different lightsaber? And people go, what the hell's going on there? Luke doesn't have the hero. He doesn't have the V2. What happened? And then our minds would start turning. Oh my God. If Luke, the Jedi Master, lost his lightsaber or got it smashed or had to create another one, why? Somebody was that powerful that it caused the Grand Master of the Jedi Order to, you know, so it symbolizes something when you do something like that. Plus, it tells you that we're 80s cool and we don't mess around. And that's why, you know, people that care about their lightsaber color, or everyone wants RGB, like RGB or Neopixel, I got to change my color. And it's awesome. Believe me, it's the coolest thing in the world. It's the coolest thing in the world. You push the button that changes your color. You have a Profi board and you see those cool effects, you know. The thing is, a real Jedi doesn't care. A real Jedi doesn't care. A real Jedi would pick up a Sith saber like Rey did in episode 8. She doesn't care. She doesn't care because she just needs a tool for defeating Snoke. So she didn't care. You know, so in the trailer for episode 8, we see her pick up, and she's got Kylo's lightsaber. Everyone's like, oh my God, she has Kylo's lightsaber. Does that mean he's teaching her now? Does that mean this and that? But when we saw the movie, it's no. She just needs a weapon to fight Snoke, because Snoke is just wildly powerful. I mean, Snoke is wildly powerful. If they bring Palpatine, if they have Palpatine in this movie, which I think they have to. They can't show us the movie and we walk out saying, where was Palpatine? Like we did last time with the Knights of Ren. We're like, wait, did you see the same movie as me? We watched episode 8, but we didn't see the Knights of Ren. Are the Knights of Ren still a thing? I think they even mentioned it in the movie. Like, he must have them off on some kind of special mission. Maybe there's a reason. Is it because you know, it almost seemed like he needed them. But was it, you know, in those moments, I mean, maybe he didn't. Like those Crimson Guards were fighting so goofy. I don't know if you guys watched like any of the slowdowns or any of the breakdowns on that Crimson Guard fight. You know, it's almost like we're so in love. We're so in love that we were willing to just suspend our disbelief and just to buy it first, second, even third time around to say, okay, this is the extent of what they could do. But we know it's not. We know it's not because, you know, in 1999, we saw The Matrix. That was 20 years ago. So we know that they could do a cool fight scene maybe with a special effect if they want to. And we've seen martial arts movies from the past 5 years. We've seen people doing flips. And we see amazing fight scenes. Have you guys seen Ip Man 2? Have you seen Ip Man 3? Have you watched the way that Ip Man is using the butterfly swords against the exact same butterfly swords against someone who has the same skills as Ip Man? And the blades hit each other every time. Ding, 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 ding. They're trying to kill each other, but at the same time, they're deflecting. And it's amazing. It's amazing what you can do with some stunt people, some martial arts, some practice, 100 hours, maybe. And that fight, if you've seen it broken down, it's terrible. It's terrible, you guys. It's terrible. The breakdown is awful. It's like these stunt people move out of the way when they're about to hit Rey. There's one part where they flat out pull their knife back so they don't hit the character of Rey, because it's just not choreographed right. It's just not choreographed right. And this is a big budget, $160 million movie. The biggest you could imagine. There was reasons why in episode 4 and 5 and in even 6 that the fights weren't that great. It was 1977. It was 1976. It was 1980, and it was 1983. And they had David Prowse, and he was in a big suit. And they had Mark Hamill, and they had stunt people. But we're talking about characters who were influenced by their characterization, why they couldn't fight well, why they couldn't. Darth Vader was, if anything, he was holding back, right? He was holding back. He showed that he was holding back. He didn't want to really. Even Luke said it. He's like, you didn't kill me before, and you won't kill me again. I don't believe you'll kill me this time either. Because he wasn't. You read the Darth Vader comic books, he's slashing people. He's cutting people open. Did you see Rogue One? Did you see what he could do in Rogue One? He could disassemble Luke. He wasn't about disassembling Luke, you know. And Luke didn't have the prowess to really make an impact in Empire Strikes Back. And when he did have the power, when he did come back with the power, when he came back in his black outfit, and he came back with his cool flap open, you know, that's like the equivalent of having like your leather jacket unbuttoned, like your shirt unbuttoned. That's how cool he was. And he came back and he knew he had it, but still, it's 2 versus 1. It's 2 versus 1. So he didn't have it. You know, he came back with the skills. He could deflect Vader's hits. He could try not to kill him because he knew by that time that that's his dad. But still, the fight's not that great. But it's emotional. It's emotional. That's what we're missing from the new thing. That's what we're missing from the new one. You know, if we had been shown, like, if they had said, listen, Rey, your mind has been wiped. You weren't dropped off at Jakku when you were a little girl. You were dropped off at Jakku when you were 16 and a half. You weren't that little. You weren't that little. But we put those memories in your mind to protect you, or whatever the reason is, you know. And then you find out, because it's maybe this is the end of episode 7, you find that out. Then in episode 8, you see that maybe this was Kylo's girlfriend. Maybe this was Kylo's competitor at the school, at the Jedi school. Maybe she was an 8-year-old girl, you know, and Kylo was 20 and couldn't do what she was doing. Maybe Kylo was 18 and she was 8, and she was turning things upside down and he couldn't lift that ship up and down. And so Luke was pushing her, pulling her up, propping her up. Kylo gets jealous. Or maybe they're teenagers and they're in love and they have a love story going. And that puts weight to when they're fighting later. You say, well, look, they have the history. They have a history. They're fighting. They were fighting on the ridge. You know, they're fighting amidst the waves because this is an epic battle, because they used to be lovers, not because they felt a drop of water on their hand, you know. That's not enough. That's not enough. Megatude, you're saying the Rebel logo on my shirt is the terrorist logo. There's people blowing up state equipment. Uh-oh. State equipment and undermining the government. That's not what I intend with this shirt. This shirt was just... Are you saying the Rebel logo from... This is a lightsaber right here. Are they using this? Terrorists are using this? Let me read here. Megatude Sis says he has the light lightsaber, which is the Ben Solo lightsaber. Needed a lot of polishing because it was rough when he got it. That's a cool looking lightsaber, though. The redemption theme I was talking about before. Are you talking about like Kylo's redemption? Because I don't know. I don't know if Kylo can be redeemed. I think. Did you ever read the comic? Did you ever see the comic book in the 1990s? I think it was like 1999, or was it 1998, or was it? It was like when Superman died. You see that one where Superman died? And it was like he fought Doomsday. And when he fought Doomsday, it was like everybody was there in a comic too. It was like Lois Lane was watching. It was like the whole New York City, I think, was like watching him fight. And I think it really meant a lot because Doomsday was like threatening. Doomsday was like threatening Earth. And he was going to kill Superman, you know. And Doomsday is the worst. Doomsday's the worst. Like I think even on his own planet, he's like a Thanos. He's the worst. Like he's even worse than Thanos. So what happens in the Superman comic? Not only does Superman die because it's the death of Superman, but when they punch each other at exactly the same time. They punch each other exactly the same time, and they both die. You know, and Lois Lane is crying, and everyone's crying. So that's going to have to happen with this. I mean, if Rey is really dark, if she's really dark, if she really is dark side, I don't know where that laser came from. But Kylo already was a part of blowing up 5 planets. Rey stood on the destroyed Superstar Destroyer, Snoke's flagship, and she begged Kylo to stop those rebel ships from being destroyed. He could have given the order. He could have given that order then. I think after that, he can't be redeemed from that. No. Because Han Solo dying, okay, it's like a childish outburst. Now, I don't know why this person looks 30 to me when they're having that kind of inner struggle, you know? Having an inner struggle at 30. How old is he? Is he 29? He can't be younger. He can't be younger than 29. Well, Megatooth is saying Kylo didn't pull the trigger. No, but Rey was watching. Do you remember those like old timey? They were like viewports, and they were old timey viewports. It looked like a 1930s television or like a 1940s television, and she's watching those rebel ships being blown up. And I think, how many was per ship? Admiral Holdo said, I think there was like 4. Okay, let's do the math here. There was like 400 rebels, and there was like 20 ships or 30 ships. By the end of the movie, there was only like 17 rebels left. So which means we had 20 rebels left. We started out with 400. There was like 30 people per ship. And Kylo just let them, she says, please, give the order. Like, you can stop them from shooting their lasers and killing my friends. And he's like, let's just have a conversation. Let's chat about this situation. Meanwhile, boom, pop. Those ships are getting popped. Of course, the whole time, Admiral Holdo is just deciding whether or not, it took her an eternity to come up with the idea to turn that ship around. It took her an eternity to decide that she was going to. She was already sacrificing herself. I don't know why that took so long. It was like literally, I didn't go back and kind of count, but so many rebel starships got blown to bits while they were kind of just deciding who was going to be the hero in this moment. It wasn't going to be Kylo. He decided no. He said, let them die. Let them die. So I think at that point, nobody, are they even going to mention their friends? Because at the very end of the movie, at the very end of episode 8, they're basically happy. They're like shaking hands with each other and introducing themselves, even though they already knew each other, or they already introduced themselves in the last movie. They were happy, but it should have been like a wake. They should have been like they were in like a funeral. They should have acted like they really were ashamed. They had let so many people die, or I don't know about but you know what I mean. So many people had died. So many. They had only 20 people left, as far as I remember. Maybe Luke realized the rebels were wrong all along. Maybe. I mean, maybe he realized this was the wrong symbol and he wanted the different symbol. But so my buddy Darth Chasm, he says I don't mind the saber at all. I actually dig it. And as you mentioned, nothing new. As far as Rey's fate, I strongly think it's either a vision, a warning during training, trial, or a clone. Can't really see Lucasfilm Disney turning Rey. This is from Darth Chasm. She's a hero, a symbol for many young girls. That said, I truly hope Rey would build herself a staff saber. It seemed like a no-brainer when they introduced her with the junk staff on Jakku, and it showed off her fighting style. And I thought that's what the destroyed Graflex was setting up. See, I thought the destroyed Graflex was going to be. This is what I really thought at the end of episode 8. I thought that she would have that staff. She'd bring that staff back into play, or somehow maybe make a saber pike, like we all kind of like. Not we all. I say we all, but some people make a saber pike. Some people like a saber pike, and I thought that would be interesting. That's not too far off from a single saber. It's not too crazy. It's just saying, hey, I built a Shoto. Like I used the crystal from the Graflex, it's blue. I built a Shoto, and I attached it to the end of the at the end of the staff. And she could use it to spear. She could use it like off most of the time, and then only. I mean, being the only Jedi in the galaxy, if she's the last Jedi, if she's what the last movie was talking about, the last Jedi, if she is it, you're going to have a lot of people gunning for you. You're going to have a lot of people gunning for you. It's like when you're Bruce Lee. If you're Bruce Lee, you have a lot of people challenging you for a fight. You're Bruce Lee. They want to fight. They'll send you a letter. They'll send you a waiver. They want to fight. They see Rey coming. They want a piece of that. A bounty hunter will want to take her out. So to hide that fact, I mean, that one saber that she just built, if that's truly her new saber, this double saber is not, well, as a Sith, I guess you wouldn't care about, well, no, you would care about, I guess it depends what kind of Sith. I was going to say you wouldn't care about hiding, or you would want to hide. But in this era, who would you be hiding from? Not Luke Skywalker. He's gone. I mean, maybe Leia, but she never took the path that was promised in Return of the Jedi. She was promised to be trained as a Jedi. She would have been epic. Talk about a strong character for girls. Remember Yoda said that there is another. Obi-Wan said that that's our only hope. Luke's our only hope. But that's not true. That's not true. And Yoda said that that's not true. There was even a story, like, in my opinion, it was inferred. When Yoda spoke of Leia, it's inferred that Leia is more powerful. Because what you do is just like Palpatine did in those old stories, where he made the clones of Luke. He made 30 clones of Luke. He made 100. He brought them in one at a time, testing himself. I am going to make sure with 100% accuracy that I can turn this little jerk, Luke, Skywalker, right? He's thinking, I'm going to turn this little jerk. So he didn't put all his eggs in one basket to say, once the real Luke walks through the door, that'll be the first time I do this. No. And Yoda didn't do that either. He didn't put all his eggs in one basket either. He actually got the one who I think the weaker of the two. If you could say the word weaker, because we're talking about two Skywalkers. So weak cannot describe them. But when you're talking about just comparing them, my belief is that Leia is more powerful. You know, maybe that's even like one thing that episode 8 kind of got right and nobody liked it. Nobody liked that scene. Nobody liked the scene with Leia out in space using her ability to come back to the ship. But if you really, you know, read between the lines, like I think I do, like I try to read between the lines of these old books and these movies. I watch it like 100 times. I'll try to read between the lines, or I'll look at like alternative storylines, like almost like Marvel comics, like a what if. What if on Hoth, Luke didn't come back? It would have been Leia. Leia would have had to do it. What if, you know, it would almost been, there's certain points where it wouldn't have worked, because if Luke died at certain points, it wouldn't have worked. He maybe wouldn't have destroyed the Death Star, in which case seconds later, Leia would have been atomized. Maybe Luke didn't kill the Emperor, in which case, again, they were about to blitz up the remaining Rebel fleet with their super laser, and it was a trap. So Darth Chasm ends it by saying that he is excited for the last movie. He's excited for them all, and you know that's kind of what I tell myself too, because back when the prequels came out, and we all had high hopes. We all had really high hopes for a Phantom Menace. We all had really high hopes. That kind of blew us away when we saw the Phantom Menace. Everyone was very happy. Only in hindsight did they start getting a little bit unhappy with the Phantom Menace. And then when Attack of the Clones came out, people were starting to see that maybe these weren't as impactful as the original trilogy. It's a tall order. It's a tall order to get to the original trilogy level. And with a story that ends in a manner that we know the ending, Ben Kenobi told us the ending. You know, he said, I fought Darth Vader and I beat him. But not before he killed your dad. Not before he murdered Anakin Skywalker. But I did kill him. And then you see the scars, and you see the scars on Darth Vader when this helmet comes down in the chamber, and you realize this. You realize maybe he was burned. He's got some scars. Then when you see Return of the Jedi, and you do a little research, and you go back and you look at some of the books, and you look at some of the concept art, and you realize, yeah, he was burned. They had a fight in some kind of lava. So almost in your own head, is built up. Like in my own head, I had built it up to be something like it was a fight on the mountainside. It was a fight on like a rocky mountainside. Like picture like a Hawaii, but more massive volcanoes. Maybe it's not like a paradise, but it's like a Hawaii with the cliff sides and with the volcanoes. And these guys, Obi-Wan and Anakin, are kind of like, I kind of pictured them. I don't know why. I kind of pictured them to be like bodybuilders, like big muscles, kind of like 80s movies, Schwarzenegger and Stallone type of thing. And they're like on a cliffside, basically hanging by one arm, swinging their lightsaber in a rage because they were best friends. Now, what we got wasn't that far off from that, but it was basically what I'm saying is was expected. Not too much happened that was unexpected. We knew that there was going to be twins born. It was sort of like a service to the fans to see them dropping off the twins in episode 3. It's almost like we needed that. I needed that. I needed to see it. I needed to see those twin sons on Tatooine. I needed to see, like, how did Luke get there? Oh, he was handed off directly to Uncle Owen by Obi-Wan. Okay. Are we going to see something like that in episode 9, like with Rey? Is it going to be like, this is who brought her there? Or like I said before, maybe she wasn't a child. Maybe that's a trick. Maybe it's like Revan, the Revan storyline. She's been brainwashed. But basically, like Darth Chasm's saying here, that he's excited. And my point is that back in those days of the prequels, I told myself something. I said, no matter when, no matter where there's a lightsaber, I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be there to see it. Even if there's a hope of a lightsaber, just a hope, just a glimmer, a twinkle of a hope. If something says Lucasfilm, I'll watch it. I don't care if it's Indiana Jones. I don't care if it's episode 8. Because the possibility that there's a lightsaber. You know, I didn't think there was going to be a lightsaber because I think the lightsaber is the coolest thing in the world. The coolest weapon in the world. Coolest fictional weapon in the world. So I'm willing to go to, like, Solo came out like around my birthday. So I wanted to see Solo. I thought Solo was going to blow me away. I thought Solo was going to be really cool. I like Solo. I didn't think there was going to be a lightsaber in it. I see problems in Solo now, in hindsight. You know, that could have been done differently. But who would have thought there was going to be a lightsaber in that? I feel like when the Empire Strikes Back starts, if you can imagine that you've only seen episode 4 and you're watching Empire Strikes Back now, it's like a couple years later in the storyline, and you are totally plopped in the middle of this. And it's amazing. It's glorious. Every line reveals something important. It reveals something important about their relationship. It reveals something important, whatever Leia is saying to Han, whatever Han is saying to Leia in the first 10 minutes. Very important. It sets the tone for what's happening. Each line means a lot. The general says he doesn't want Solo to leave. He's a good fighter. Then when he goes and talks to Leia, it's for a different reason. When Obi-Wan shows up, he doesn't answer Luke. He doesn't respond to Luke. He just says what needs to be said right then and there. There's nothing else. There's no goofiness. Whenever there's a confrontation, it's just down to business. It's just down to business. They don't play any games in Empire. That's the lesson they should have took with these new movies. They don't play games. Every single line means a lot. It's not a throwaway. There's no throwaway characters. And my friend Brad, he posts, he says, I'm a sucker for nostalgia. So seeing all the other films shown in the order it was released, it pays homage to the films that came before. It just felt right, and I got to say it was beautifully done. I was expecting a behind-the-scenes sizzle reel, and this was way more unexpected. I'm looking forward to seeing the role Palpatine plays in the sequel trilogy and what that means, specifically for Rey. Palpatine was a master tactician, so him having a contingency plan and a contingency to the contingency plan. See, this is what Brad's talking about, what I talked about before. Palpatine doesn't play games. You think any line Palpatine had was he was playing games? He was not playing games. He was able to turn the most powerful Jedi to his side. And look at what he was willing to, look how he was willing to do it. He was willing to do it over the course of 15 years, slowly. Slowly. Palpatine was a master tactician. I read that part. So he says, I'm also hoping for clarification to raise lineage, as indicated in the cave of Ahch-To. In the cave, she says, let me see my parents, please, and is shown only her reflection. Is it possible to be both a Skywalker and a nobody? Yes, it's already canon that Palpatine manipulated the midichlorians inside of Shmi's womb to create Anakin. So I guess that's like the new canon. What I think happened is Darth Tenebrous and Darth Plagueis created Anakin inside of Shmi, but not even specifically inside of Shmi, just sending it out there. I think. Sending it out there, not knowing where it was. I think that's what happened. Palpatine intervened in this plan, killed, well, I'm sorry, let me step back a second. Darth Plagueis killed Tenebrous before Tenebrous was ready, basically. And that's the way of a Sith. As soon as you are strong enough, you turn on the master. As soon as you're strong enough, there's no delay. Plagueis got them. They were actually caught in there was like a building was crumbling around them. So Plagueis kind of helped it along, kind of helped Tenebrous die, helped him die, so he could take on the mantle of the Sith Lord. Now, this was after I believe this was after he sent out the Mumbo Jumbo to make Anakin. And then, in turn, Palpatine killed Plagueis sort of before his time. So then it was Palpatine who kind of caught wind of this secret and went to and sort of let Anakin come to him. Was aware of this being and allowed the Force to bring him close. He says, this is Brad again, my friend Brad. He says, I really enjoyed her training in the forest with the training droid and getting irritated in what happens to be a perfect scene for Luke to make his presence. So this is Brad. Yeah, this is Brad having the same thought that I did. That Luke was going to jump out at some point. Evil Ray looked dope, and I could already envision the artists on the site putting together the schematics for that saber. So he's talking about artists on FX Sabers, drawing up this saber. And there's actually some really close-up views of this. I don't know where they got those, but they've got these images of like not Ray holding them, but them like lying on a table. So you could really, I don't know if that's a computer rendering of somebody that whipped that up within 24 hours of seeing the trailer, but it looked real that they had these props out or something. That's my theory anyway, and I'm sticking to it. It says, I think ultimately JJ will have written a film that explains the majority of questions we had after The Last Jedi and potentially make that film a more enjoyable experience. Don't get me wrong, I like The Last Jedi, but it asked more questions than it answered. And I thought so too. I thought it asked more questions than it answered, which isn't fair. Not that everything has to be fair, but it'd be cooler if it's not fair, right? But it should be cool. It should be cool first and ask questions later. But it should be cool first. And I'm not positive that JJ is going to answer those questions, because what came out today was that JJ made a comment saying that he's not concerned with things that occurred in The Last Jedi. So I don't know if that includes Luke dying, but He's not concerned. And people have theories about how Luke might not be dead too. Maybe Luke is there's 3 or 4 different ways that Luke could come back. Maybe that was he was transferring his essence somehow. Cad Bane, another one of my buddies. This is Bane. He's saying, I don't think that's Rey. It's another actress being introduced into the movie. So with that possibility, there's a chance that it's Rey's mother. So maybe in the intervening years that we haven't seen, in the 30 or 40 years since Return of the Jedi, there was a dark woman of the Sith, a dark lady of the Sith, looks similar to Rey. Maybe I would like that better. I want to see, that time period where it's before the Force Awakens. I want to see before the Force Awakens. How did we get here? How did we get here? This is a weird place to be. A place without Han, without Luke, without Carrie Fisher to be Leia. It's an odd place to be. My other good friend, E57, he says, see, that's what I thought at first. Oh, that must be Kerry Russell's character. Then I looked at them side by side. It's Daisy, the noses that cinched it. She's just wearing really heavy makeup around her eyes, mouth, and specifically cheekbones. Yeah, because when you're going to make someone look evil, what you do is you just put like a heavy eye makeup around them. I mean, Halloween's coming up. Like, what do you think you're going to do if you want to be in a rock band or you want to be a Dark Lady of the Sith or a witch or a warlock or I don't know. Like, the first thing you do is get dark eye makeup. And then he says at the end, he confirms it with her eyebrows too. And my buddy Ben Kenobi, he says, I'm pumped for this movie. He's going to go see this movie. And Brad comes in again. He says, I think StarWars.com more or less confirms it's Rey. Although the idea that it's her mom would have been a rad idea. So he quotes StarWars.com. He says, following a striking montage of scenes clipped for the other saga films, the unmistakable voice of Mark Hamill could be heard over the new scenes. We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations lives in you now, but this is your fight. The wise words were also part of the first trailer for the film, but the new footage, including a moment where Rey appears to toss a fully ignited lightsaber, and of course the sight of Rey with a reticulated red blade was nothing short of thrilling. And then my friend Mike comes back in to say it's 100% Daisy. In addition to what you say, I'm sure post-production is not finished and this very well could still be undergoing edits, because sometimes that happens. I mean, there was scenes in The Force Awakens that we didn't see, or scenes in The Force Awakens trailer that we never saw in the movie. And there was scenes in like Avengers Endgame trailers that we never saw in the movie. I think there was a scene, I think for the Avengers Endgame, or was it for Thor, where I saw a scene for, I think, in the Thor trailer that never actually made it to the movie either, Thor 3. So it's just like, that happens too. That's why I had the questions about Palpatine, because I'm like, if they don't have Ian McDermott posing for the poster photos, what's going on here? I don't get that. They may have done some lighting and EFX that they still need to refine, but found it suitable for 3 seconds of a trailer. So yeah, I mean, it looked HD enough to my eyes that I thought it was Rey right from the start. It seems, here's Only One Kenobi again. He started the thread. He says, it seems that StarWars.com originally said vision of Rey with a reticulated red blade, but with some fans noticed they changed it to the sight of to remove the word vision. Oh, okay. So he's saying that there was a clue in the text that kind of said this might be a vision. And then Sir Raw Thunderman comes in to say, putting all that fanboy speculation aside for a minute, I, for one, was very glad to see a new lightsaber. I will never fully understand the sequel trilogy's obsession with the Graflex. Yeah, it's the coolest and best saber. The Graflex, of course it is. But the prequel trilogy showed us so many lightsabers that as a lightsaber fanboys, we got spoiled. And the new movie started with very few characters. It's not like Game of Thrones. Wasn't hard to remember these characters' names. It's not like Game of Thrones where they had a first and last name. Everyone had a first and last name. These characters have a 3-letter name. And there's not many Force-sensitive ones in the group. So at this point, he says, any new sabers I'll be happy with. Even if it's only something that gets half a second screen time in a vision, in a dream, in a parallel multiverse that goes about annoying all the fanboys and their rules or however they go about doing it. New sabers are something I'm happy with. That's from Sir Raw Thunderman on FX Sabers. He's saying any new saber, he's happy with that. He's happy with the new saber, you know, just more things to be canon, so you don't have to speculate and be like let's say you built something like that and you came to the table and you came to show it to people and people will be like, what's that? Oh, it's a lightsaber switchblade, you know. What's that? But now it's canon. So there you go. No questions. If you came to the table and you plop that on the table and you said, look at this, they say, oh, Rey's dark saber. Perfect. Only One Kenobi comes back in and he says, yeah, I was hoping she'd replace rather than repair the Graflex 2. I guess this vision, dream, parallel multiverse, or whatever it means that somewhere she did or will. I still hope for more new lightsabers too, maybe from Knights of Ren. More lightsabers is always good. New lightsabers even better, even with implications like this one. So like, I think that too. I think that if the Knights of Ren came to the table and we could introduce Amber blade to the canon here, that would go really far to please people, I think, and be very cool looking. I always thought yellow or amber lightsaber was kind of like a totally 80s look, because the reason why I think that is because if you guys read the comic books, like their Old Republic style comic books that came out a long time ago, you know, that were kind of about Exar Kun and about different people like Nomi Sunrider is her name, and what they had to do to stop Exar Kun and what they had to do. The way that they depicted all those Jedi in those times, basically all had the same color blade, and a lot of times it was yellow. It was like yellow in the comics. It was like neon green. A lot of the times yellow, sometimes blue. They kind of didn't care. They kind of didn't care what color they painted the lightsaber. It just mattered that it was a lightsaber. So it would be cool to see an amber one, because there's a lot of video games too that just feature amber lightsaber with the blue. But putting a yellow one in there would go a long way to rounding out our lightsaber colors and to show that possibly, especially if the Knights of Ren member was a former Jedi Padawan, that perhaps we can say that amber lightsabers would be official and officially canon. And then Dark Jedi finishes this out by saying, yeah, Vision, I just want new ideas for Hilts too. It was an exciting trailer and thought it nice to honor what came before. So what Dark Jedi is saying there, what came before, because, you know, the trailer had a bunch of scenes from the earlier movies in the beginning, which I just questioned the sequence of those. I thought it should have been episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, rather than what they did, which was most popular ones first, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, and then 7, 8. I thought it should have been the actual numbered sequence to show, like maybe show Qui-Gon first, maybe show Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan first as you know, fighting Darth Maul or whatever. Maybe have that music theme come in, Duel of Fates right then and there. Drop it with that dun dun, you know, kind of like it's 99, kind of like it's 1999 again. And then to show the series, have the music swell when Luke comes in like it did. But just another small detail that I think just shows just something's a little off. Something's a little bit off. They should not. They should be showing the sequence. I think that's how. I mean, that's not how I think people should watch them, but I do think that's how they should have done that sequence there. So I do want to just talk about one other development. That is the CF10, which looks super awesome. There's a lot of talk about the CF10 because it shipped this week. So some people are actually getting their CF10s. And Galandro got his CF10 today in the mail from the Custom Saber shop, and he's showing a bunch of pictures. He's showing a bunch of pictures of it. Let me pull it up here. This is the back of it. I was actually surprised. I was actually surprised that the board came black, because I thought that somehow that would have been just like the prototype. But now I do see that, like, I did notice that the stacks of uncut boards looked black to me. They looked dark, but I just thought that was like the photo. I didn't really know that they were going to be they were actually going to be black, and that looks pretty cool. All the tracers look like they're really nicely laid out, kind of like having the outer tracers looks like a Profi board to me. It's also around the same size as a Profi board, I think. I don't have one in hand to compare. I'm just looking at these pictures from FX Sabers, and you guys can go there and take a look. This is in the Plector Labs section. It's kind of funny because my friend K2, he says, you know, I said, oh, I'm surprised the board is black, because you act as if you've been buried inside a temple on a moon or something. Because my name is XR Kun on this forum, so he's just making a comment about XR Kun. That's funny. He's making a comment about me being in the dark and about being buried as XR Kun, so that's pretty funny. Rogue Jedi 21. He made his first post with in this Crystal Focus thread. He says, looking to build my first lightsaber with a new Crystal Focus 10. Never done this before, and all the tutorials on YouTube seem to only use nano biscotti. Well, that's because this board's so new that Irv just put up the manual, which is incomplete, I think. I didn't even take a look at that yet. It's incomplete, though. And then it's just people are getting their stuff shipped to them right now. So I don't know that there's like videos on how to use it yet. But you'll be able to see in the manual probably enough to get started. Yeah, so he's just asking for a tutorial, which I'm sure will be coming soon. Someone will make a video on how to wire this up. And I think the coolest way to use this is going to have to be Neopixel. I think you guys are going to agree on that one. Yeah, it's going to be able to do those effects. It's like the Profi open source stuff. I don't think this is going to be exactly like that, but this is going to be able to be updated, and you are going to be able to through the other side of the board. Let me just go to the other side, because Galandro provided some pictures of his board, and I'm going to just pull that up. So just like the Profi board, you have like a little mini USB input, and that's going to be you're going to want to have access to this part. I'm thinking you're going to want to have access to this port on your lightsaber. Now there's going to be, I think there's going to be different ways to do this. There's going to be different ways that you're going to be able to integrate connectivity through your hilt to your computer. And one of them is going to be through this USB port. Okay, one way to do it, let's say you want to lock this up inside your lightsaber, and there's not going to be a way to access this port. What you can do is, I think, we're going to have to confirm this when I know more. But what I think you're going to be able to do is put a jumper. So we can put a jumper port from this to an exterior port on your lightsaber, possibly. We have to just see about the USB, about the way the USB wire works. I think that's probably going to be possible. Like I have an extension piece that I ordered. I'll try it. But yeah, so your hilt outside could be clean. You just run a jumper to like a port that's going to look cool. You know, like find a cool looking, like, you know, the end of the USB. Find a cool looking place for that on your lightsaber. Find a, you know, maybe it's a hidden spot. It could be a hidden spot. But it doesn't have to be this exact spot, because you're also going to be able to configure this through Dmitry Stokes' program for the Bluetooth. So you're going to be able to, I don't know if Plector Labs is going to have its own phone program, or if you're just going to use Dimitri's, but Dmitry already has it all set up. I think where you're going to be able to just go through to this with the Bluetooth. You know, you're going to be able to just... you know, you're going to be able to not even, I mean, I think for some of the updates, you're going to have to use this, but for the day-to-day settings and you're making changes and things like that you want to do on the fly, I think your phone's going to be able to do that. So the SD card, I'm not exactly sure if you're going to have to take that out to replace fonts and things. It might be all through, it'll probably be all through the USB. There's no Force Sync for Android phones, Megatooth Sis is saying. I thought that was on the way. I you know, I haven't used the Bluetooth phone module for any board yet, and I just watched some of the demos on YouTube, and I do have an iPhone, but I haven't tried it. I haven't tried to use like Force Sync app from Dmitry for any of the stuff, but I've seen, you know, like KR Sabers do a video. I've seen some videos on it. Tim is in the room, my buddy Tim. Yeah, he's saying when I was talking about Tenebris before, Darth Tenebris and Plagueis, see, Tim must have read this book. So I was at Tim's birthday party. If you guys want to watch Saber Talk 15, you'll see Tim and you'll see me, and we were hanging out that day. But he's saying that there was a gas leak in a building, and Tenebris got caught up in the explosion. And I think he was like not totally dead. He was like kind of like help, you know. He was like my assistant, or my what do you call him? My Sith, whatever. Darth Plagueis, help me. I don't know if he said help me, but he needed help, and I think Darth Plagueis just like used the Force to like smash a big boulder on his head. So that was how he got rid of him. I mean, he sees opportunity. He had to do that. It's like Darth Bane versus Darth Zana. You know, Darth Bane was coming out of being like captured for like a long time, and he was in no shape to be having a duel with the second best Sith in the galaxy. So guess what? She took her opportunity right then and there. Darth Zana did. And he didn't have a lightsaber. Darth Bane did not have his lightsaber. That's why it was a perfect opportunity for Darth Zana. She was a sorceress, so she could manipulate the Force to do sorcery against him, which he could not defeat even if he had his lightsaber. He couldn't, but obviously having a lightsaber was preferred for Darth Bane. You know, he didn't come out of that one that great. Oh, it was in a cave. Tim says it wasn't a building, it was in a cave. Yeah, so that's why I was like these huge rocks. I knew it was like some kind of boulder. I think Plagueis dropped a boulder on his head. But then you know what? It was like in one of the in that same book, it was like Plagueis goes through something just like that. Plagueis owns a company called Damask Holdings. And in one of the meetings, you know, so he kind of masquerades just like Sidious masquerades as Palpatine, as a normal, not a normal guy. He's like the president. Palpatine's like the supreme chancellor. Damask Holdings is just a company, right? It's just a company, but it's a big, huge company. It's like Microsoft or something. So he owns this big, huge company, and he's like, on the board or whatever. And he had to go to one of these like meetings, and there was an assassination attempt at the meeting. Not necessarily for Darth Plagueis, but for who he was on the side, who his secret identity as a Hugo Damask, I think his name was, something like that. So they were targeting him, and they ended up killing like 30 people in the room. They blew up the room, but the Force, Darth Plagueis used the Force to kind of stop that from killing him. He got really messed up. I think his throat got slashed. I mean, he was on his last legs when he escaped that room. So it's almost like karma. It's almost like karma for these Sith. He helped his master get pummeled and rocked, killed. And same thing almost happened to him. I forget how his end actually happened in the book. I think something similar, though. I think karma's a bitch, even in that Star Wars world. I think that's going to happen. The same thing. It's like a cycle. Like George Lucas says, it's all going to go in a circle. So it's like they kind of build those stories. Not necessarily these new movies are kind of getting away from, I think, the true core of what Star Wars really is. They don't really understand the Force when they're making these new movies. They're kind of rushing them, kind of not putting the artists on the movie are doing a great job. Everyone's doing a great job behind the scenes, and the actors and everybody. But it's just like the story group, I guess, or whoever's coming up with the story is not really the best. What I think it should have been was a contest. In 2014 and 2013, they should have said, listen, all you Star Wars fans out there, I know everyone's got fan fiction. How about we do a contest, and you're going to get $250,000. You're going to get $250,000 plus 2% of this whole thing, and you would have had so many entries by talented people. And you probably would have had a bunch of garbage entries too. But you would add a bunch of entries to kind of go through, and it would have been, isn't a pool of talented people better than just two people? Like when you saw JJ and Lawrence Kasdan sitting on the stoop writing episode 7, trying to come up with ideas for episode 7. Why weren't they looking over a table of comic books of Star Wars? Why weren't they looking through? They didn't have piles of Star Wars books around them. They didn't have material. They didn't have any research. They just were going off the top of their head. I don't think that's the way to do it. To come up with a clever, interesting story, they could have gone out. They could have gone outside and said, listen, we're going to have a contest. And we're going to make someone a superstar. We're going to make someone a writer. Well, someone was already a writer. So they're going to make them a famous writer. And they're going to work with Lawrence Kasdan, and they're going to work with J.J. Abrams, and they're going to come up with the next Star Wars story. But we can do it better than you guys. We could do it better. We're the experts. Leave it to the experts. We'll come up with something. Megatooth Sith said Frederick's board, so the Profi and probably the Teensy too, works with Android. But this Crystal Focus, I guess, is not going to, at least right from the start. But I think there's going to be updates. I think this board is upgradable. So I think that, whatever effects or whatever things that don't like ship with the board. I know there's some people that are a little upset about the fact that you're not going to be able to put some other data lines for pixel control right from the start, but it is going to have the ability to do that later. So I just think that if you kept your the idea for your build for this board, at least within the parameters that it can do right now, if your build is coming up soon, do that and save your complicated build that you want more pixel accents or you want different pixel configurations or a pixel bar graph, if you want something like that to occur in your saber, just plan for that saber to be a few months down the road where when the updates are there. Or you can use a Profi, which is able to drive other pixel accents and stuff like that. And so there's big news with the Crystal Focus 10, and let's see what else is being talked about on FX Sabers. There's some for sale threads. You guys can look in the Trade Federation if you want to. If you're looking to buy stuff, you can see some pretty rare hilts sometimes. There's actually one in there right now. This is one for sale by Django. He's a moderator on FX Sabers. Let me show you. This is kind of interesting because I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Killer Penny. The Killer Penny came out. It was probably 2005. I don't know. Maybe it was later than that. I could probably look it up here. The Killer Penny was actually the first saber that I that I noticed as an as a true FX saber. I knew, I owned sabers previous to the year 2000, but after the year 2000, a new movie started coming out. I started to look a little harder. My friend Kevin at work, he pointed me toward FX Sabers. He actually said, FX Sabers is going to have has a bunch of stuff that you love. He told me he knew I'd love it. He said they're all making the sabers like you love. This was one of the first things I saw on YouTube. So I think it was post 2005 because YouTube came out in 2005, and I saw this saber, and it had the Plector Labs. Let me pull up the Killer Penny. It had the Plector Labs Crystal Focus in it. And this is actually something, if you're at all familiar with this, you might be familiar with the newer one, which is a limited run that was done. Who is it? I think the original, I'm trying to remember here. I think it was Corbin Saber. And then what happened was Ace Rocket decided to actually put this out for sale a number of years later. So about 10 years after the Killer Penny came out, they did a Killer Penny replica. So that's the first picture here that you see. And the Killer Penny is just brought a lot of people into the saber hobby because it was one of the first custom lightsabers that was truly original through and through, and built with copper. So it was called the Killer Penny because it resembles the color of a penny. So it's copper and brass. I think the entire thing was copper. The new one, I think, has brass bits and stuff like that. Actually, you could see one of the pictures here that that's on Photo Bucket. That's being blocked by Photo Bucket. But it's just showing. I think there was like over 100 parts to this hilt. So I don't know if the Black Mamba was out or was designed by the time that Ace Rocket decided to redo the Killer Penny, or was the Killer Penny first and then the Black Mamba was the next one that had even more parts to it, even more high end. Designed by Sloth Furnace, a great designer for BioWare Star Wars stuff. Brad, he's incredible. And he made the Black Mamba. I'll actually show you guys what the Black Mamba looks like if you're not familiar with that. Lightsaber. So the Black Mamba was a lightsaber that had even more parts than the Killer Penny, and went together in an even more daring way. But going back to the Killer Penny for a second is this other saber, which is a spin-off. It's kind of like a spin-off of the Killer Penny. So you see the Killer Penny coming out in 2005, maybe, I'm guessing, and then it's got the one of the first crystal focuses in it, I believe, and the way it sounded in the YouTube video. I mean, you guys can go watch the YouTube video; is still up, and it was just so amazing back then. We're used to these tinny toys that were $10 or $29, or even the expensive ones. It was difficult to get a really good sound out of your lightsaber, and as we know from watching movies, sound is 50% of the experience. Like when you watch a movie, it's a visual experience, but it's also an audible experience. And the sound, as we know from Star Wars, just works so well when done right, when done by a master like John Williams doing the music, and you have that symphony coming in as a soundtrack. It's makes the movie bigger. It makes the movie huge, and that's what these modern soundboards did for the lightsaber, the toy lightsaber, the hobbyist lightsaber. Is Plector Labs came in and kind of refined what was already out there. And made it like really high quality, really high end, and that's what was in the Killer Penny, and that started to become what everybody wanted. They wanted the crystal focus because they started to see it in really high end lightsabers, like the Killer Penny. So after the Killer Penny, which was a single lightsaber. It was just one. There wasn't like 10 you could buy. You couldn't buy 2 of them because you were rich. There was just one, and Corbin had it. So about 10 years later, they made a Killer Penny run where there was maybe 5 of them. So a couple lucky people got to buy the Killer Penny. There wasn't many made. And in between those times, sometimes there was a lightsaber that was used in a contest, as it were, and it was a design. I think it was an Ace Rocket design. It put out, I think, by the custom saber shop. Maybe did a contest, or was a contest kind of by makers in the saber community to build a lightsaber from one design, a unique design lightsaber, but to have many makers do their take on it. And it's called the K3R, I think, or the KR3. This one's called the K3GR1 Shiny Quarter Limited Edition. So I think this is if I have the name right, K3GR1. That's what Django writes here. I don't know if that's the model number just for this Shiny Quarter. But as you can see with the name, Shiny Quarter is a spinoff of Killer Penny. And so this looks like the Killer Penny. It's sort of mimicking what the Killer Penny was like, and the shroud work on the Killer Penny, but this one is done in aluminum. And this is the type of rare lightsaber that you could see like in the Trade Federation if you're looking for something to buy or something to give as a gift. Sometimes there's these rare lightsabers, and sometimes there's anything all the way down to like Master Replicas lightsabers in the lightsaber section. Just check it out. Like right now, there's a Vader's Vault. There's a couple other ones. But I don't know. I think as far as the new trailer for the episode 9, they say we are going to get something in October, something that's more than just a teaser. So that'll be something to look forward to for everybody that is really looking forward to this movie and finding out anything more. You know how they will probably have footage from this teaser in the next trailer and then just kind of build on it. But we expect that. I think everyone kind of expects to see just a little bit of some stuff we've seen before, and then we'll see a bunch of new stuff too. I don't think we'll see anything new Saber related, but just maybe more time with the Sabers we have seen. Maybe we'll see like Rey do a flip or Rey in action with that saber rather than just extending the double hilt. Who knows? But I think I'm going to end this broadcast right now and go to sleep. But yeah, I just really wanted to talk a few of those points out with you guys and talk about episode 9, talk about Rey's lightsaber. Kind of crazy. Talk about that poster. That's a bit cartoony, but it's what we got. Anybody that is listening and wants to join up on FX Sabers or the Rebel Armory, I'm a member on both of those. I'm SpaceWIndu at the Rebel Armory, and I'm XR Kun on FX Sabers. So if you want to contact me there, you can look up XR Kun. If you want to look on the Rebel Armory, I think I'm also SpaceWIndu on the Custom Saber Shop forum, but admittedly, I haven't. Even though I've been to Custom Saber Shop purchasing things like this week, I haven't been on the forum maybe in like in a few months. So I gotta check that out. You could also, if you want to see pictures of like builds and stuff that I'm doing, you can go to Instagram. If you guys are on Instagram, I'm SpaceWIndu on Instagram, or you can look up my name, Anthony Lagaipa, Lagaipa. But I think if you look up SpaceWIndu, you'll see me on Instagram. Sometimes I'm posting stuff that I'm working on there, or just like drawings and stuff. But in the middle of a really, 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 really nice Graflex build right now. I was thinking about doing a stream where I'm showing you guys because this is actually the coolest thing about this lightsaber. Well, not the coolest thing, but there's a couple really cool things about this lightsaber. First of all, it's a Graflex from my friend Brad. It's heavily, 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 heavily made by my friend Jedi Arms Dealer David. If you guys already don't watch Jedi Arms Dealer videos, you guys got to go on YouTube and look at Jedi Arms Dealer. Incredible, incredible work. Really unique lightsabers, and he built the chassis for this Graflex for Brad that I'm working on. And when you guys see this, I think you're gonna like really flip your lid. You're gonna be so excited. It's gonna be better than the episode 9 trailer. I promise you that. I promise you, when you see the inside of this Graflex, you're gonna be like, why didn't they get Jedi Arms Dealer to work on Rey's lightsaber? You're going to ask that question because it's better than movie quality. You know what they showed us in the movie is nothing compared to what I have on my table over here. It's a Graflex like Rey has, but the inside looks nothing like Rey's. It's incredible. It's got crystals. It's got everything. It's got brass and metal. It's got a crystal chamber that to me looks like the Holy Trinity. Like if you died and went to heaven, you would see so many sparkly, glistenery brass and crystals that it would knock you out. And that's kind of what you're seeing in here. And one of the coolest things about this hilt is that it's a Crystal Focus LS build. So that's like a throwback to like 2012, where we had the Crystal Focus LS, and now we don't have it anymore because it's discontinued. But this is the one that runs the string blades, and the string blades is what like I really like to do, and I haven't done it in a while. So the past couple of days I was making some blades, and I had one made for Brad, but like I think like I found even brighter LEDs, so I was making a couple blades because there's actually. The weird thing is there's actually 2 people I'm building the saber for right now that's getting the Crystal Focus LS, which that hasn't happened in years. 2 people at the same time are getting Crystal Focus LS because the boards have been discontinued. There just isn't boards around. But Brad found a board. I think Brad sent me a board from, or I forget who found it. Maybe Jedi Arms Dealer found it. Maybe I found it. Maybe Brad. I think Brad found it from Dimitri. So Dimitri sent me his Crystal Focus LS, and my friend Ron is also getting the same thing. I'm building. I think his blade is done. His blade is either done or almost done. But I was thinking about making a stream during one of these constructions of the blades, just to show you guys like how that goes down. But I'll have to start it at a certain point, because it's like, this stream would just run for too long. Like making a blade is like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. It's not like doing the Neopixel one where it comes in the strip. So much easier. You cut the strip, connect the ends, you do your diffusion. Maybe that takes a couple hours to get a Neopixel blade going, but it probably takes a couple days. Maybe you could do it in a day to do a CFLS blade to do it right. You probably do it in like within a day, but for me, it's usually 2 days. So because I probably work on it for like 6 hours one day, and then hopefully 5 hours the next. But it's like sometimes you run into an issue. I mean, like, like this segment's not lighting up right or something, and then things you kind of have to backtrack. Or hopefully, if everything goes smoothly, it's like a very workable 2 days to make that happen. But I mean, I've scrapped blades before too. I'm like, forget it, start over or something. But the LEDs are pretty expensive, so that kind of doesn't happen a lot. But unless I'm actually unhappy with the way something looks in the diffusion, because sometimes that look changes. You're like, oh, like that doesn't look right, because each LED that I sometimes customers want different things. So like each blade is like really different. Some people want like a blue flash on Clash, or most people want a white flash on Clash. So I have LEDs pegged for exactly what's good for that. But when some people want something that's a little bit different than what I usually make, it sometimes takes 2 tries to get it to look right. So that's really cool to do 2 CFLS builds at the same time in 2019, which is like, kind of beyond the point of CFLS. But the look that you get with the CFLS, I do think is very original trilogy, very movie-like. And the sound is powerful. And when you do the string blade, you're really getting the brightest you can make is available, but it's only available in that single color. Obviously, it's not going to be changing colors like Neopixel. So don't be expecting that, but it's like the brightest, truest color, even represented on the lux meter. It's even sometimes like 3 times brighter than a comparable Neopixel color, which if you see Neopixel in real life, is crazy bright already. So how it's like doubly as bright, I don't understand that. But when you're playing with a CFLS lightsaber, pretty amazing. Trails on the blade as it moves around, even more so than Neopixel, and Neopixel is very impressive. So that's pretty cool. Maybe tomorrow I'll show you guys some of that blade. Like it'll just be the blade I'm making for Brad. I can maybe finish that up and show you guys what that looks like. What else was I going to say about CFLS? I was going to say something else about CFLS, but I think I forgot. All right, let me see if there's any more comments. Just need to. Oh, my buddy Jason's in the chat here. Oh yeah, that's actually, he reminded me about what I was just going to say about CFLS. Is that if you want a string blade and you don't have access to Plectrum Lab CFLS because it's discontinued, you can do it with the Profi. You could do it with DIY Eno, I think, and well, I'm positive. I'm just not sure if the DIY Eno is available right now. But you could do it with the Profi. You could even have up to 9 segments with the Profi and still have a flash on Clash string in there. And so the only problem there is kind of using the right connector, because when you want to take the blade in and out, you need the proper connector that's going to work every time and have enough connections. Like these new Pogo connectors for the Neopixel has plenty of connections for Neopixel, but not enough for a light string because you're going to need, unless you just want it to step up like 2 times, what you're really going to need in a light string is like 6 or more segments, or at least 4 segments. I would say you need at least 4 segments to make it look real, to come up and down. When you're setting the timing, the faster you set it to go up and down, the more real it'll appear because you won't see the steps. Yeah, so Jason is Mad Science Workshop, and he's saying he's on FX Sabers as well. He has a store on FX Sabers. He's saying he's going to make a LS partner board at some point. Yeah, he's talking about making a pin connector for the LS, which you've showed me in person, or I think it was in person. Certainly, when you show me the rendering, that at least a 6-pin is possible. I think, if not, or were you showing me a 10-pin? But that was pretty cool. And like I don't know how that's gonna happen, because those tracers and stuff like in there, like all in that same space. But that would be sick, because the thing is with the LS, with the pins that I'm used to using, as you guys know, is like you stick the blade in, and if you twist it, you're gonna hear crunching. You're gonna break something because of the way the pins have to go in a certain way. With the Pogo stuff, with the Neopixel stuff, the reason why everyone thinks this is the best is because you don't have to worry. You could be in the dark. You could be in the absolute dark, and just as long as you can get that blade into your emitter socket, you're going to be golden. It doesn't matter. So some people didn't like the way the old ones were, where you had to actually, like, you're kind of like looking in there, trying to line up. Some people put a dot onto where they can align. That was an easy way to do it. But, if you're in a dark place, or you're trying to do it quickly, or you hand your lightsaber to somebody and they twist your blade to try to get it out, you can really ruin stuff. So to have a Pogo connector with like 10 pins or something, I mean, if I had that, like, I might even go back to like, light string, like more than 50% of the time or something. Cause like, I just think light string is, it's kind of like the analog to the digital, it's kind of like, it's analog. It's like analog saber lighting techniques, and the digital is like Neopixel. D for data, like the data line on the Neopixels, like where all the information's running through and stuff like that, and you could tell your saber to do anything. But in a analog like LS lightsaber, it's just on, it's just off, and you can set the steps, you can set the speed and different things, but you're not going to change colors. You're not going to have a rainbow. Well, actually, you can have rainbow effects. I had a rainbow blade I made out of fast changing RGB lights for a LS blade, and when you have them powered by a lightsaber soundboard, 100 of them soldered together in a 6 segments, it's pretty crazy, and you get like some wild effects, very similar to what you see in the Neopixel, but it's more random. Like, the Profi can do like a rainbow thing, and the Plector board CF10, I saw a video where it was doing I think it was by Irv. He did the rainbow thing, and that looked pretty cool. It looked like a different rainbow. It was like a strobier rainbow than the Profi, but I'm thinking anybody can just make whatever they want in the Profi. So anything you can dream up, you can make it happen. That's like the really beautiful part of all this programmable stuff, and the stuff that's like digital, is because you can, when it involves a data line, very easy to wire. And the possibilities are like literally endless for what you can do, what you can see. I mean, Jason showed me, if you guys saw one of my Instagram videos from a few months ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, Jason was over at the Mad Science. He was at my Spaceship Destiny. He's from the Mad Science Workshop, and he had a blaster. I mean, it was a blaster with a Neopixel blade in it, and it looked sick. It was firing a yellow bolt down the blade. So the possibilities are literally endless with what you can do. these things come in meter strips. Connect a couple meters together. I mean, you can put effects like in your house with the stuff. So it is kind of cumbersome to have a meter long blade, but this stuff does come in meter long strips that maybe someone's gonna make a whip at some point. Is it that tough? Can we make a whip? Can we like cover it in shrink and maybe like weigh like a lot of layers of shrink? I might actually try to do that. No, but it can only be 180. Maybe the new collector board can do more. But like at least like the prisms and stuff, wasn't it like 180? It's like the most amount of pixels you're gonna light up. So I guess one way to get around it, if you wanted a whip, was to buy like, you could buy like, they have 100 per meter. So you could have like you could have almost a 2 meter whip, 180, but the diffusion won't be right. The diffusion will be messed up. I don't know how the diffusion would work. Maybe a closed cell tube. No, maybe closed cell foam tube, uncut, and then shrink wrap that. But you'd melt the foam. I don't know how you do that. Oh, maybe like you know what they make like a beer bong out of, like that type of stuff. I wonder if like that tube, could that tube have the diffusion in it? I don't know, and be like a Neopixel whip. Oh, Jason's saying he did a candy cane blade a few years ago. That was his original impetus for going for an animated blade. Oh, so I guess the candy cane blade was like red and white. It rose up red and white, red and white, red and white. Like that must have looked kind of trippy. Oh, I see. That must have looked kind of trippy. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what people do. Jason, if you know, is it like an issue if you do a jumper from the USB port from Profi or from CF10 to like, another port on the Saber? That's not a big deal, right? That doesn't matter. It'll still connect. It's like I bought a few different types of like jumpers that can like hopefully work off, like, you know what I mean? Like a different kind of port that just has the same contacts as a USB, kind of like alternate. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Megatooth Sith is saying that yeah, that's no big deal. So that's what I would suggest doing. Like for a lot of people that you're not going to be able to have access to your board, you could do it that way, and you could run that line anywhere in your hilt. So if you wanted it at the pommel, you could easily do that. Oh yeah, or like Jason's solution to all that, he just does everything through the emitter. Like he has his power port. Like he'll have a 10 pin connector, and like power port, computer port, blade socket, everything's in one. I'm wondering though, how do you know? How do you see in real time what the blade is doing? I'm trying to think. Do you have a blade? Like, how do you see in real time? Or do you have is your apparatus, like your apparatus probably has a Neopixel strip on it? Because like, how do you see what the effect is on because if you don't have the blade in and it plugged in your computer, like somebody might with the USB or with a rice. Oh yeah, he's got an adapter, so you could probably see like what's going on. But yeah, that's another option. That's like, I kind of consider that like a pretty advanced option. But those type of pin, if we're talking about the pin plugs, I always trusted those more. I always trusted pin connectors. They seem stronger. They seem like they could take a lot, unless you turn them, obviously. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to call it quits and go to bed. But I hope you guys have a great night. Have a great day tomorrow. Build your sabers. Go to FX Sabers. Look up all the cool stuff about the CF10. And we will talk again soon. I'll try to get on here and we'll talk about component blades. I want to talk about component blades tomorrow because I'm in the middle of making 2 component blades. All right, guys. Have a good night.